This is the topic 6 of the chapter, Steps in a Scientific Investigation. The scientific method is a systematic method that can be used to solve the problem. Scientific method involves a series of steps, enables an investigation to be conducted correctly and fairly. In general, most of the knowledge that listed in the science are tested through the scientific investigation. There are 9 scientific investigation steps. The first step is identifying the problem. The second, forming hypothesis. The third, controlling variable. The fourth, planning an experiment. The fifth, carrying out an experiment. The sixth, collecting data. The seventh, analysis and interpreting data. The eighth, making a conclusion. The writing report. This 9-step of scientific investigation will be detailed in the coming section of the video. This is about the first step of scientific investigation, identifying the problem. Problems are some things that cause issues in our life. This is the step to identify the problem based on observation. The second step is forming hypothesis. Forming hypothesis is an action to make a reasonable guess to the explanation of the problem. The hypothesis can be tested experimentally to determine its validity. The third step is controlling variable. Variables are the conditions or factors that can affect the result of an experiment. For example, to get a raw meat cooked to be a cooked meat. Temperature and time are the variables to affect the level of its doneness. To variables, we can set the variables to be either manipulated variable, responding variable, or constant variable. About the manipulated variable. This is the input factor that to be changed by the observer. For example, in a cooking of meat, we can set the temperature to be manipulated variable, at which we can use several temperature, such as 100 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Celsius, and 150 degrees Celsius. To cook the raw meat, in different processes. The level of doneness of a steak will be different, in different temperature. The second type of variables is responding variable. This is the factor that changes with the change of the manipulated variable. For the same example, the level of doneness of the steak is the responding variable. The level of doneness of the steak will the change of the temperature. The third variable is constant variable. The variable that should be kept the same or constant during the experiment. The time of the cooking of the steak is the constant variable. At all the cooking of the steak, we set it to be constant at 20 minutes. The fourth step in a scientific investigation is planning an experiment. This is a planning of how to carry out an experiment. The planning is including determine the procedures to carry out the experiment, methods to collect the data, materials and apparatus to be used in the experiment. The fifth step is carrying out an experiment. This is a process of carrying out the experiment according to the plan to test the hypothesis. A correct skills is required during the experiment to get an accurate and precise data. Follow the rules and safety measure during the experiment in laboratory to avoid accident to happen. The sixth step is collecting data. During the experiment, we record the data obtained from a qualitative and quantitative observation. We collect the data through the retrieving of the reading from the measurement tool. Hence, a suitable measuring instrument is required. Repeat the measurement several times to obtain a more accurate and precise average value. The seventh step is analysis and interpreting data. During the analysis and interpreting data, the collected data is organized to a systematic form, such as in a table or graph. Through the studying of the data in a table or graph form, the pattern in the relationship between the manipulated variable and responding variable can be identified. From the same example, the cooking of a steak. The level of doneness of the steak is increased proportionally with the temperature. If the time fixed at 20 minutes. The eighth step is making a conclusion. A conclusion is made based on the analysis and interpretation to judge whether the hypothesis is accepted or not. If the hypothesis is not accepted, a new hypothesis have to be made, and another investigation should be carried out again. The ninth step is writing report. A report is a scientific investigation of a problem, and is important for the communication among scientists, at which all the finding in the experiment is recorded. A proper report should include the following subject: problem statement, SIS, objective, variable, procedure, material and apparatus, observation, analysis, and conclusion. The following are the 12 science process skills that required to carry out scientific investigation. The first is observing skill. Observing is an action to collect information from objects or phenomena. Observing can be conducted using the sense of sight, hearing, touch, taste, or smell. The second skill is classifying, based on the information from the observation. Classify the objects or phenomena which have similar characteristics to the same group. The third skill is measuring. Measuring is an action of quantitative observations. By using measurement standard unit, or tools standardized with reference units, quantitative information is collected from measuring. The fourth skill is making inference. This is a skill of making initial conclusions, based on the evidence, or knowledge, that may be true, or false, to explain events, or phenomena. The fifth skill is predicting. Predicting is a process of forecasting events, based on observations from phenomena, and previous experiences, or existing data from trusted sources. The sixth, communicating. This is an action to convey information to others, or receiving information from others, through the presenting of information, or ideas. It can be in the form of writing, verbal, tables, graph, figures, or models. The seventh skill is using space relationship. This is about describing the changes of parameters, or variables with time. For example, length, location, direction, mass with time. The eighth, interpreting data. This is the process of giving rational explanations to an object, event, or phenomena, which, derived from the collected data. The ninth skill, defining operationally. This is about defining concept of study, in such a way that it can be observed, and measured. For example, what is happy? If you want to define happy operationally, an object is required to be measured, or observed. For example, when a smiley face is observed, this is happy. Face is the object to be observed. The 10th is controlling variables. This is a skill of identifying the variable from the problem to be investigated, and then set the variables to be manipulated variable, responding variable, and constant variable. The manipulated variable will be manipulated to observe how the responding variable to respond. The constant variable is kept constant during the process. The 11th skill is making hypothesis. This is the process of making a statement to explain the relationship between responding variable and manipulated variable before the experiment. The last is the experimenting skill. This is the skill of planning and conducting an investigation to test the hypothesis. Data need to be collected and interpreted to obtain the conclusion. Scientific investigation is a systematic approach to answer questions or to solve problems. Master the science skill, enable us to solve, or see problems scientifically. And, the knowledge to be learned in the subject of science in the class are generally validated, through the scientific investigation. The study of science, not only help us to know the world, but providing us with a systematic approach to explore the world that has not yet been known. This is topic 7, Scientific Attitudes and Values in Carrying Out Scientific Investigation. Here is 12 positive attitudes and value to be practiced in carrying out scientific investigation. Realize that science is a means to understand the nature of the world. Be responsible for the safety of oneself, others, and the environment. Appreciate and practice clean and healthy living. Diligent and in carrying out a task. Appreciating God's gift. Curious towards the environment and knowledge. Cooperative. Virtuous. Flexible and open-minded. Systematic, confident and ethical. Appreciating the contributions of science and technology. Honest in recording and validating data. This is the content of topic 7. And, we have just completed the lesson of Chapter 1, Introduction to Scientific Investigation. Thank you for watching.